the same 5 different stories on every network and the cable news channels. And there's a quote I have in there by Michael Parenti, that the media might not be able to tell us what to think, but they're very successful in telling us what to think about. And of course, everything is focused on the material world. Everything is focused on kind of power struggles and things that, as Christians, obviously should not be our top priority. So I think I think watching TV is kind of a dangerous activity. I don't think it's a neutral activity. And I think it's specifically designed to kind of reinforce the power structure that's there, while at the same time giving an outlet for people to feel like, hey, Fox News is standing up for me.
Here's where I noted that TV nowadays is, if you haven't watched TV for a while and then you do watch it, it's sometimes shocking how just awful it is. It seems obviously wrong, but it's pretty easy to get desensitized to it. If you just are sitting there watching it for any length of time, you start to get used to it, kind of like a hot tub.
A book that I just read recently, I hadn't read it when I wrote The New World Order and the Eugenics Wars, but there's a book called Propaganda by Jacques Ellul. He's a French guy. And what he talks about is, he has a whole section in there on propaganda's effect on Christianity. And one of the things he says is that, and this was back in the 1960s, he said either Christianity will embrace propaganda, in which case it will no longer be Christianity, or Christianity will refuse to use propaganda and will be shoved off into the margins of society and cease to be kind of a relevant factor. And I think what's happened is we've got both of those things have happened. There's kind of the fake version of Christianity that you see on TV and does use propaganda and uses the exact same propaganda techniques that pretty much all other programming uses. And then, of course, there's real Christianity that you cannot ever get through the media. Even if someone, with the best of intentions was like, I'm going to, have a TV show all about Jesus, and they have someone up there preaching, and he can be the best preacher in the world, but just the medium of television makes it all about the preacher and not about God.
Here, I asked if there were any other chapters in the book that he found particularly interesting or notable as he was doing the research and the writing.
One of the, I think, important chapters for people, who are first waking up, if you get this book and you give it to someone who doesn't know what they're talking about, I think the 4th chapter on the financial system is important, just so people understand,
right,
how
yeah,
rigged the
I have it
system
here.
really is.
I'll read it if you want. It says,
what I thought was really interesting, I found that quote from Nehemiah that I put at the beginning of the chapter. I'm not turning to it right now, but I just found it there. Yeah, I'll just kind of summarize it. But basically, Nehemiah is looking there, and people are coming to him and complaining. And it says, there was also some who said, we have mortgaged our lands and vineyards and houses, that we might buy grain because of the famine. There were also those who said, we have borrowed money for the king's tax on our lands and vineyards. Yet now our flesh is as the flesh of our brethren, our children as their children, and indeed we are forcing our sons and our daughters to be slaves. And some of our daughters have been brought into slavery. It is not in our power to redeem them, for other men have our lands and vineyards. And I became very angry when I heard their outcry in these words. After serious thought, I rebuked the nobles and rulers and said to them, each of you is exacting usury from his brother. So I called a great assembly against them. And I think it just kind of reinforces the idea that, there's, like it says in Ecclesiastes, there's nothing new under the sun. The systems that seem so new to us now, were in place back then. And one of my favorite quotes that I have in there, I think it's in the second chapter, is where the people are demanding a king. They don't want the system of the judges anymore, where God laid out the law and the judges, just judge based on the law. They want a king to lead them into battle, and they keep saying, we want a king to fight our battles for us, which of course is ridiculous because kings never fight the battle. It's always it's always the king making you fight the battle. And God warns them about taxes and everything else that would come of that. And I think it shows, for whatever reason, people, they want to be led to a certain extent. And I know that some, New World Order type people use that as an excuse. Oh, look, people want to be led, so it's our job to lead them. But what people are missing is that, what our true desire is for.
Here he completes that statement by saying for us to be obedient to God. And then I agree with him and basically say that it's a really good timing for the financial aspect, as a lot of people are waking up to these kind of ideas through the financial meltdown that's happening. I got a few other questions here for you, but I do want to mention that this book is, I think you got it on your website now for $10, so it's not something that is cost prohibitive. So I just would really recommend people. If you go to my website, nowheretoRunradio.com, on the right hand there, towards the middle of the page, you'll see a big banner for the New World Order and the Eugenics Wars, A Christian Perspective by Andrew John Hoffman. A few other things here. So where do you see, what's the big picture? Where is all this going? And obviously, we could say, as far as the short term, I guess you could say. We know that where it's going biblically, but even maybe if you can touch on that, just what's your big picture on all this?
My big picture, that I enjoy listening to you and Frank kind of talk about this every week. I think we might have a longer timeline than it seems like right now. Sometimes, especially for me, when I first found out about all this stuff, it seems like everything's going to happen tomorrow. And I think, the more I look into things, I think the processes that are in motion will keep happening. But I also think that there's a certain amount out there of confusion between America and then the whole world. And I think there's kind of lots of people think, oh, America's falling apart. We sense something's wrong. We sense, our country's falling apart, and people kind of think, well, that's it. When America falls apart, that's the rapture, and that's all she wrote. And I really don't think that's a biblical, something you can get from Scripture. There's obviously tons of stuff that's happening that's fulfilling prophecy and showing that this, we could very well be getting close to the end. But I think America could totally fall apart, either, through economics or whatever else. And that doesn't necessarily mean that's it. So I think kind of short term, I think America could be in for some rough times. I don't necessarily expect the Antichrist to show up, right then. I think the 2012 thing, I think will try to be used to push people in to more of the New Age thing and get people interested. I'll research 2012 and find out about Michael Pissarian and all that garbage. I definitely think there's a